Thanks, Joseph. What he said. Okay, before I'll get started with the case study that we have here, I want to say thank you for coming to CreaLTVity. It's very exciting to see all the faces. And I want to quickly introduce myself, although I was told I need to speak very slowly. So, my name is Shai Gabai. I'm the business development lead here at Hidalgo. I work in this company for the past 4.5 years. I have a pretty extensive hands-on media buying experience, so I had the privilege to escort a few of the biggest companies during their transition from canvas towards mobile, which I understand some of you are in that position as well. And you're in a pretty interesting industry, the social casino one. It's being managed by pretty big heavyweight, it's a heavyweight championship. The advertisers, the global ones, are extremely aggressive. If they can't outbid you, they'll try to buy you. If they can't buy you, they'll try to buy your talent. That's kind of what usually are developers that are super aggressive in this industry, and there are companies that they've been buying more and more companies, and they have 7 different games for the same sub-vertical, which in our case, before I get started, I want to show you, Donkey was speaking about how the newsfeed looks. I want to give you a glimpse about how the top social casino user newsfeed looks like. And that's how it's so important that to have good creative. Take a look. On the left-hand side, you see it's canvas, packed with social casino ads. They get it every day. They have even a limitation, I believe, for 2 to 4 impressions a day per advertiser, so they see a lot of those. In the mobile, they're experiencing the same thing. So many ads, so many ones, and so little time to grab their attention. At the end of the day, you have pretty much 2-3 seconds to grab them. If you don't, they're not coming to your game. As simple as that. So creative has to be thumb-stopping experience, and that's what we hope to show you today. And which comes to our daily topic, which is art and science. I know a lot of designers are here. Whoever is a designer, can you raise your hand? People from the art team, how many people are you from the art team? Yeah, raise hands. Okay, see a few of you, good. In this industry, in this social casino industry, you sometimes have to break the rules of your own rules. You think, designers usually think, how will I resonate the best way with my game? How I'll make the experience the best way it's possible for the users? And think more about how to, like a movie director, and make good ideas, and think about photography and some high quality creative. Where are the other people? How many people are doing UA here? Raise your hands. A lot more. Where UA people are looking for analytics and results and bottom lines and revenues. And to be associated with creative and revenue is a tough task to complete. And sometimes what we found out from our partners, there are 2 things we found out. One thing is that the designers of the game are, in many cases, are also the designers of the ads, which is not usually the best practice. And the second part of it is that we see that the user acquisition managers and the people who are designing their creatives are not sitting in the same room. Our approach in this presentation is they should be meshed together, and they should make decisions together. And it's one brain, 2 loops of the brain. Left is the more analytic one, results driven, and you can also get creative because you need to stick out in that newsfeed you just saw. Because you need to make sure you're getting the attention from the top-notch social casino users. So after a lot of research with our clients, we've set up some sort of a journey from the launch of a mobile app or a Canvas app towards and wait until they reach to scale and stability. We start off with the launch, and there are 2 pivotal steps on the creative part. One of them is called creative hacking. We'll discuss it in depth in a bit. It's about finding one winning element combined with your game's USP that actually beats the competition, beats those heavyweights. That's one element that is critical. And the second part is the creative evolution. How we take this one element that's working really well and amplify it and make it scale. So those are the 2 steps that we'll be learning today. So now we're going to the partner that worked with us, Huge. For those of you who are not familiar with Huge games, by the way, tomorrow Facebook's webinar, I believe you guys are talking about Huge case study with us with app event optimization and worldwide targeting. Today we're going to talk about this case study from a different angle, from the creative angle, because you can adopt all the new features as you want, but if you're not going to do a good job with your creative, it's not going to be as useful as it should be. Huge Games are the makers of Huge Casino. It's a multiplayer, real-time social casino app. They're right now top grossing in US in Android, number 4 top grossing and number 1 in number of downloads. And the interesting part with them is that they entered the market pretty late. Only in the last year they reached that phenomenal growth, and they have agreed to share some of their creatives with the world and with you in particular. So at this point, I want to thank them all the way from Korea. So you will see, by the way, this cycle, we tried Hidalgo to productize and make a process out of pretty much everything we do, even if it's creative thinking. So we want to take the launch or fatigue stage. Fatigue is like the end of the creative, and we'll discuss that later. And we're showing you the steps that we're taking: the creative hacking, the creative evolution, and scale and stability. This cycle repeats itself, and it's never ending, because in media buying, it's a 24/7 race. It never ends, and that's why it's always like that. So first step is, like mentioned earlier, creative hacking. This is the step when we are doing basically a brainstorm session where our art team and our UA team are meeting together and thinking about how to crack the next campaign. So we did it with Huge. And from the art side, they were saying there are 3 reels that will work really well. The Egyptian one, the classic one, and the Greek one. And our team told, well, we know that Facebook has video ads, and there is auto replay, so why not put a door element that will complement the beginning and the end of the video? So that's the art part side. There's those elements that we are taking into consideration when we are producing first and second and third batches. Now, from the science point of view, if you guys are new, these elements that you see here, wins, coins, wilds, reels, or any sort of a slot-related lingo is really performing all across the board. You see that in every ad, and it's stable. So those are the elements we want to combine with our art. And we came up with 3 tests. Here they are. First one is the Greek element. The second one is the classic slots. And the third one is the Egyptian one. Which one of them you think overperformed? Any guesses? I'll give you a clue. The X marks the fixing point, means that it's the lowest CPI. And the one on the left is like the second lowest CPI, 7% more than the one in the middle. And the one on the right is the highest CPI. Still asking the question, which one of the 3 you think overperformed? Okay, I'll tell you. The one on the right, actually, where sometimes developers, they tend to think CPI is a KPI, but in reality, social casino, you want to see LTV, you want to see ROI in your campaigns. At the end of the day, when we see both scale and payers rate and return on ad spend on to day 30, that's very common KPI to take for social casino. There's day 1, day 3, day 7, and day 30. Very common for measuring UA campaigns. So we saw the Egyptian one, the overperformance. Now, the question is, why did it work? It could be many reasons. Now we'll try to dissect it and make a little surgery here to see why that creative overperformed the others. Potential reason number 1 is the door element I mentioned at the beginning. It was the only one with that door element, maybe that's the reason. Second one, they have really good spinning wheel. spilling reels. That could be a reason as well, just like that. Jackpot at the end, very clear, let's call it call to win, let's call it jackpot, or wins, or scatters, or whatever it is there. And also the auto replay reference, and maybe it also was because of the theme, the Egyptian theme. It could be anything, that's the reality. It could be 1,000 different things that we've done in the creative. But what we are doing here is actually labelizing it, productizing it, and making a system out of it. And that's what I want you to take from this presentation. Measure the performance of everything you do inside the creative, whether it's a video, whether it's an image, it's a carousel, or any other ad type Facebook will invent in the next quarter or two. So the way we're doing it, we have, as mentioned earlier, we have our own technology that does also reporting, optimizing, and uploading. And I'm going to show you a snapshot of our platform about how we understand and how we dictate which creatives are overperforming. In this case, you can see this is our creative dashboard. It's actually available for designers as well. Designers can actually learn about performance like that. So we can actually, for those of you who are really interested to break it down to some basic targeting, it's possible as well. The labeling is important, like Egyptian is a label, door element is a label, and you can go for both upper funnel events like CPI and number of installs, and you can go also for down the funnel events like payers rate, or even return on ad spend, which makes it a lot easier to understand, okay, which creative is actually overperforming. This is just one way of doing all the, to create a system, but the idea is to have a system. Because when you're doing A/B testing with a social community, you want to know why it worked, because you don't want to end up with one good creative that worked, all of a sudden it didn't stop working, you never knew why it worked, and then you're back for square one. And that helps you, that's helped us actually, and with Huge as well, to get past that stage and be more productive in our next batches, be effective with our creative production. So after we did this, we used the creative dashboard, we did this first test, we did we saw the Egyptian work, we did a bit more iterations to examine what exactly worked in that. So we found out that it's not just the Egyptian elements, but also with female characters at the center. Those were overperforming. Yeah, that's the actual reason that third one from the right, the one from the right, overperformed. So this is the part when we call it creative evolution, as you can see in the screen. We found that one element, and now what we're going to do, we're going to take that creative that worked, and we try to make it evolve, and make it big, and make it with other iterations that are look like it, not exactly like it, that will help us scale. So here's a few examples. One very common example is just to change the site, having the same creative, only with a different size. The second iteration that we can do is based on the character, the Egyptian. We saw the female character work, let's say the Egyptian one work. And now we're doing with another Egyptian character, the Egyptian god. So this is another version. And the third version that we did, we know that the female character worked really well on the Egyptian team. Let's take a leading female character and then move it to a different scene. But there is a very strong correlation between that first creative we've done with the other 5-6 iterations you just saw. So that helped us to scale a bit, and we have managed to max out that element, that one element. We've managed to come from hacking and move to evolution, make it scale and stable for a while. Unfortunately, before we get started with fatigue, this is a recommendation for rules for how to scale when activity is stable. We recommend to spend 70% of the resources, that means spend, that means production, that means all that. 70% for existing successful creatives. 20% should be considered for soft evolutions like you saw just a minute ago. And 10% should be always invested for hacking, to find that next step. Because I'll give you a very quick example. That newsfeed you just saw, your competitors are looking at it all day long. And once they see a winning element that repeats itself, they're going to copy you. And when they're going to copy you, that element is no longer a winner, because then the auction repeats itself, and you need to basically reinvest in the new resources. And so 10% I always recommend to put on hacking. Because at some point you'll hit fatigue. It's a 24/7 process and you're always gonna hit fatigue. So we're now hitting fatigue because our competitors just watch our ads, they saw it and they copied it, and now it's underperforming. At this case, the ratio changes a bit. Once you're hitting the fatigue, that's the pie represents. So 40% should be invested still in your top performing. Still there, they are perform, but they still have to be, there's some percentage of those best creative that can still work. 20% still for soft evolutions to find maybe there's a bit of iteration that can work a bit better. And 40% is done for hacking. So there's a lot more resources invested when the UA team and the designers should work together on this one. So it is a challenging period. With Huge, it did happen. It did happen eventually. And when it did, we sat down with their CRM team and found out, okay, they always told us that the classic slots are really working. Always. And then when we did the next test, we just did, okay, let's take classic slot, try to break down to all possibilities of classic slots, and then see if it's what kind of precise classic slots element could work. So I'm going to save you the whole process. I'm going to show you some of the outcomes. So we identified that the diamonds worked a bit better. So we did 3 tests of the diamonds. We saw those are 3 examples for the diamonds. And we found out that out of those 3, the one on the right overperformed. So we want to take that creative and have a really pretty scalable A/B test with that creative and see why it overperformed for real. So we have two creatives. The one on the left is a neon sign. The only difference between them is the one on the bottom, the logo on the bottom. The logo on the bottom with the neon signs and the diamonds with the light blue and purple 50s style logo. We found out results were astonishingly different. Number of hits on 225 more. Payers rate 400% more. And day 30 return on ad spend 1,600 times more. So we have isolated that creative to more iterations. We found out that one logo, one light blue and purple logo, did all the trick. So what are we doing now? Creative evolution. We're going to take that logo and we're going to amplify it. Here's an example for an image and with a video with a huge logo, which looks like slots. It's a nice addition to that. We have another example with Instagram size and vertical videos. By the way, vertical videos work very well. I recommend you guys to use them. And also, at the end, we are reaching that scale and stability one more time. And after now you guys are knowing that diamonds work, we should get prepared for the next hacking we need to do with Huge. So if you think about the key takeaways from this presentation, basically hacking and evolution, like mentioned, keep in mind that when you're building a system around measurement of creative, still keep that 10% for hacking. You never know when you're going to hit fatigue. And when it does happen, use your CRM to help your creative and your user acquisition and re-engagement and whatnot. And the last part is, even though CRM and product can help marketing, we also know that marketing can actually help the product. If you're all of a sudden realizing you have a winning machine in your UA campaigns, why not put that reel that was successful in the forefront of your app? It could be another way of using marketing in a way to improve your product even. So now we're going to have a coffee break. What's the time now? 4:05. So we're going to meet here at 4:20 for the Insta game. And thanks you for listening. Looking forward to the next one.